in the village of Umwagu. Strength and skill in farming, hunting, palm wine tapping, and wrestling were marks of a man's worth. It was tradition for villages to invite neighboring communities for wrestling competitions, where winners earned respect, farm produce, and sometimes even a maiden as a wife. This wrestling period normally comes during rainy season when the soil is wet and soft towards harvest of new yams. Wrestling takes place at a sandy area of any village square. Most villagers use this wrestling competition day to mark the end of wrestling season, and it takes place on a New Yam festival celebration day. A young warrior named Obidike, famous for his strength in wrestling, hails from Umwagu. His prowess makes him the pride of his people. He is well known not just in his village but in neighboring communities as well. He holds the title Azu Eru Ala One, unbeatable in wrestling. One day, Umwagu was invited to the village of Amodara for the final wrestling event of the year. This event cements relationships between villages and showcases the strength of each community's finest men. At the wrestling arena, Obidike faces several tough opponents from Amodara and neighboring villages. The crowd cheers, and each match pushes him to his limits. In a heated final match, Obidike emerges victorious, bringing pride to Umwagu. As tradition holds, Obidike is rewarded for his victory with farm produce and, as a special honor, he is given a maiden, Uremma, to be his wife. Uremma is the most beautiful and hardworking maiden of Amodara. She loved her mother so dearly and helped her on their farm. But her weak point was that she was so cruel to animals. She does not set her eyes on any animal without chasing it and hitting it with any available wood she could lift up. Some domestic animals around her neighborhood knew her for her cruelty and avoid crossing her path. Uremma, even before marriage, was known as a devoted daughter, helping her mother in their farms. One morning, while weeding her mother's groundnut field, she discovered a rat had destroyed some crops. Out of frustration, Uremma chased the rat, caught it, and tied it to a tree. She continued working in the hot sun, while the rat slowly died of exposure. Without much thought, she tossed its lifeless body into the nearby bush. Years passed, and Uremma married Mazi Obidike, the unbeatable wrestler, but she could not conceive. They tried all known herbs and visited native doctors, but nothing worked. Uremma's barrenness became a painful mystery to the family. Concerned, Obidike's family advised him to seek the help of Okedibia, a powerful native doctor in Ozuabong, known for uncovering deep spiritual issues. Uremma, her mother, and her husband Obidike embarked on the long journey to Ozuabong, traveling for days on foot. At Okedibia's shrine, the powerful native doctor divined the cause of Uremma's troubles by pouring a mysterious substance into a black clay pot tied with red cloth. The surface of the water reflected Uremma's face like a mirror. As Uremma stared into the water and asked for the source of her barrenness, a rat appeared in the reflection. Fear gripped everyone in the shrine as Okedibia summoned the rat to speak. With anger, the rat spoke, revealing that it was the spirit of the rat Uremma had tied and left to die in the scorching sun years ago. The rat explained that it had been a mother seeking food for her young and that Uremma's heartlessness had cursed her. The spirit rat explained that because of Uremma's cruelty, it had followed her all her life, preventing children from reincarnating into her womb. The rat declared that Uremma would never bear children, as her heart was unworthy of motherhood. The rat spirit vanished from the reflection, leaving Uremma and her family in deep sorrow. Despite all efforts to summon the spirit again, there was no more response. Okedibia, being a powerful and experienced herbalist, remembered a similar case his master, a seer from Leru village, had handled years ago. The case involved a man named Odenze from Ndielu village, who had been in a relationship with a woman named Amara, when Amara became pregnant. Udenze, knowing their families were not in good terms, persuaded her to terminate the pregnancy. Amara, angry and heartbroken, ended their relationship. One day, while Udenze was hanging out with his friends, drinking palm wine, a stranger, a native doctor from Leru, entered the gathering. The man asked to drink from Udenze's cup. Udenze, unaware that the stranger was a seer, agreed kindly. As soon as the man drank from Udenze's cup, his spiritual eyes opened, and he saw a baby crying beside Udenze. When he asked him about the baby, Udenze, shocked, denied having one. The native doctor, realizing something was wrong, asked Udenze if he had ever fathered a child. Udenze recalled Amara's pregnancy and the abortion. The seer then revealed that the spirit of the unborn child had been following Udenze, crying and preventing him from fathering any future children. The baby's presence would ensure that even if Udenze married, he wouldn't be able to impregnate his wife. Udenze was terrified and asked what he could do to make amends. The seer told him that his kind gesture, allowing him to drink from his cup, had saved him. He instructed Udenze to appease the child by placing a cowrie in the palm of a baby and whispering his apology, asking the child's spirit for forgiveness. The seer warned that if Udenze didn't do this, the child's spirit would haunt him forever, blocking future children from his loins. Grateful, Udenze did exactly as the seer instructed, and when he got married, he had no trouble conceiving with his wife. Okedibia, having remembered this tale, advised Obidike and Uremma to do something similar. He told them to return home, offer food in the farm, and call upon the spirits of nursing rats to eat and forgive them for Uremma's cruelty. He also suggested they apologize to the spirit world by whispering to a baby's ear, asking for mercy. Obidike and Uremma followed Okedibia's advice. They prepared the food items, went to the farm, and made their offerings, calling upon the spirit of the nursing rat. They also apologized through a nearby baby, begging for forgiveness. 5 months later, Uremma conceived, and there was a grand celebration in both Umwagu and Amaodara. Many retired wrestling champions like Obidike were in attendance on the day of the naming ceremony. Different cultural dances and younger wrestlers compete to show respect for Obidike, their veteran. To show their gratitude, Obidike and Uremma returned to Ozuabom with cows, goats, chickens, and other livestock to thank Okedibia for his wisdom. Uremma later gave birth to 3 more children, and their family prospered. In the same Umwagu, there lived Obidia and her husband, Mazi Oji, who had been plagued by tragedy for years. Despite giving birth to 8 male children, all had died either at birth or at a very tender age. Their last surviving child, Ellie, a 4-year-old daughter, was already weak and sickly. When word spread about Uremma's miraculous rescue by Okedibia, Obidia and Oji hurried to seek help. They visited Obidike, who graciously directed them to Okedibia in Ozuabom.
Ozuabom being very far and reaching there was a journey of many days. Oji and his wife Obidia stopped over many times in some villages as they trekked. Had some rest, eat, took their bath and changed their clothes as they continued their journey to see Okedibia.
Upon reaching Ozuabom, Okedibia welcomed them and performed a divination to uncover the cause of Obidia's misfortune. He revealed that during her youth, Obidia had been a beautiful maiden in Umwagu, attracting many suitors. However, one suitor, whom she had rejected, had cast a spell on her, vowing that she would never be able to enjoy the fruits of motherhood. Despite the revelation, Obidia could not pinpoint which suitor had cursed her, as she had turned down many proposals. Okedibia, with his vast knowledge, advised them to perform a simple incantation and leave things in the hands of the gods. He instructed them to return home via a different path, through the farm. He revealed that the first person they would meet on their way home would be the one who had cast the spell. This person's surprise and behavior would confirm that he was the culprit, and his death would soon follow. Then they would know who had bewitched Obi. Obadiah and Oji, concerned about their daughter Ellie's worsening condition, asked Okedibia for help. Sadly, after another divination, Okedibia found that Ellie's spirit had already crossed into the afterlife, and she could not be saved. However, he gave them herbs to rub and drink, assuring them that future children would survive once the curse was lifted. As they journeyed home, they followed the alternative farm path, as instructed. To their shock, the first person they encountered was Mazi Okeke, Oji's best friend and a frequent visitor to their home. Okeke had always been there when their children fell sick or when they suffered loss of any child. His sudden appearance made Oji's heart drop. Okeke, visibly anxious, called out, "Oji, where are you coming from? Why did you sneak out without telling me?" His words betrayed his guilt. Oji and Obadiah exchanged a knowing glance and, as directed, passed him without saying a word. Okeke, realizing his doom, threw himself to the ground, clutching the grass he had come to fetch for his goats. He cried bitterly, regretting his decision to leave home that day. His native doctor had warned him that the day he met Obadiah and her husband alone on a farm path would be the day his curse on them would backfire. The spell he had cast to kill Obadiah's children would return to claim his own life. The gods, in their wisdom, had led him out on an Afo market day when most villagers were resting at home. By nightfall, the news of Mazi Okeke's death spread through the village. His lifeless body had been found on the farm path. The entire village was in shock, and Obadiah and Oji were overwhelmed with relief and disbelief. They had never imagined that their suffering had been caused by someone so close, an enemy within. 3 days later, little Ellie passed away, but Obadiah's hope was renewed. She soon conceived again and, as Okedibia had predicted, gave birth to a healthy daughter. She went on to have 3 daughters and a son in total, and all of them survived, bringing joy and peace to her household. Moral lesson. This story teaches that not all enemies are strangers. Sometimes, the people closest to us can harbor the deepest resentment. It also shows the power of perseverance and faith. Even in the darkest times, Obadiah and Oji never gave up on finding a solution to their troubles. Through the wisdom of Okedibia and the intervention of the gods, their suffering was lifted. Finally, the story reminds us that jealousy and wickedness will always have consequences. Just as Mazi Okeke's evil deeds return to him, the harm we inflict on others will inevitably find its way back to us.